Man, just what a disappointing finish yet again for the Sixers. It was a game at halftime, it was a 3-point game, and then all of a sudden you blink your eyes and they're down 30. Just another disappointing end in an era that has brought disappointment after disappointment for Philadelphia.
Yeah, that was a tough watch. I'll be completely honest. I was on Philadelphia for that game, +7. It looked great, right? They got off to a hot start in the first quarter. I'm looking at the stats here. Their biggest lead was 9 points. So the Sixers, 9 points sometime in the first half. Obviously, the rails fell off in that third quarter, Jeff. They only managed 10 points on offense in the third quarter. They got outscored, let me see, 65-33 in quarters 2 and 3.
Not good.
I mean, that's the difference right there. Yeah, that's the difference. We can blame, Doc Rivers. We can blame James Harden. We can blame Joel Embiid, the 2023 NBA MVP. But to me, it's just the collection of it, right? It's the molding of all of these guys and personalities on one team. We knew that they are very talented. We knew that they were going to be in this situation sometime or the other throughout the playoffs. But we had this hope. We had this inkling that maybe they could get it all together. But history is history, and we've seen this same story in Philadelphia for many years now.
It's just now. Harden can leave if he wants. Embiid has his MVP, but I mean, horrible the last 6 minutes of Game 6, a disaster today. There's no quick fix. There's no quick fix to this at all with the Sixers, and Boston's better than them, and Milwaukee's better than them, and forget even bringing up the Western Conference when you're stuck in that really just that box of being number 3, which what they are. There's no quick fix.
Yeah, it's tough. I sent out a tweet on my page the other earlier today, and this is a one-sided rivalry. It's not even a rivalry, right? Since 2000, they've met in the playoffs 5 times. All 5 times the Celtics have advanced. 3 of those times they've kind of dominated those series. 2 of them, both of them went to Game 7, 2012, as well as this year in 2023. But this is a one-sided rivalry. It's tough for Sixers fans because we all know, Jeff, those Philadelphia sports fans, Eagles, Phillies, their hockey team, the Flyers, those are some rabid, passionate, great fans, and these teams always fall short.
Albert, let's go to the Eastern Conference Finals first. I know the West are up first, but we'll get to the East here. Wednesday night, Game 1 in Boston, Celtics and Heat. Boston's an 8-point favorite in Game 1. They're over $5 favorites to win this series. Look, I do think they will win this series. But this is pretty wild pricing on Miami here where they have the better coach. This is a familiar playoff matchup. And they're coming in on more rest as well.
Yeah, I think the first point you mentioned to me is the thing that resonates the most. Eric Spoelstra being in this position basically for a decade now, and if you include his time under Pat Riley in Miami, it's a decade and a half, right? 15 years of postseason basketball pretty much, because he's always in this situation. Unless there's a major injury or LeBron James leaves your team, he'll take 1 or 2 years off the playoffs. But for the most part, he's always going to have his team prepared. This is a tough one for me. I think from a talent standpoint, as well as from size, physicality, Boston is far superior. But there's something brewing there in Miami. We all know playoff Jimmy is a thing. He raises his game. Reminds me of Hakeem Olajuwon and Dirk Nowitzki. They have great regular season stats, but they actually raise their points, rebounds, and assists in the postseason, which is really hard to do because usually defenses are scheming against the number 1 option. And with Jimmy Butler, he's able to elevate his game and elevate his teammates. I think the issue here is going to be that second wing. We saw Max Strus play really well, in the first couple rounds. We saw Duncan Robinson get off the pine and hit some threes for the Heat. But this is a different beast because if Jimmy's going to be on Jason Tatum, that means one of those guys is going to be on Brown and vice versa. If Jimmy is on Brown, that means one of those guys is going to be on Jason Tatum. And that is a very, very one-sided matchup. If anything, I think Eric Spoelstra and his staff is going to be able to to scheme and coach this team to at least one victory. I don't think it's going to be a sweep by any means. But, Jeff, I do see a potential gentleman's sweep.
The gentleman's sweep in the East, just looking real quick, because it popped off my screen for what you could get here on 5 for Boston. Probably getting yourself a pretty nice price, all things considered. It is the favorite, plus 240 for Boston to win the series in 5. Is that a good enough price for you there, Albert?
You said it was plus 240?
Plus 240 in 5, yep.
Yeah, I would definitely lean that. I think that's a good spot because I think some of these games are going to be somewhat competitive, Jeff. But I think when it comes down to the end, from free throw shooting through execution, not only offensively, but more importantly, defensively. We saw Boston ratchet it up today, the second half. I think that's why Philadelphia couldn't do anything in that pick and roll. I just think Boston just has just enough to win these games. As far as a betting or handicapping perspective from a game to game basis, that's where you can find some angles, whether it's Heat first half or Heat first quarter, places like that. But full game, usually, you know how it is, Jeff, the superior team is really going to come through. As far as series is going to concern, I do like Boston plus 5. I don't see it going anymore. Maybe Jimmy has another 45, 50-point burger in him, but even then, you're going to have to score 110, 120 to keep up with Boston. I don't think Miami has enough offense.
Again, the Heat will want to grind these games out, and it's funny. You get a 202 at close today in Game 7. Game 1, only a 210 total here, and that is, Albert, no shock whatsoever after watching Miami and the Knicks just basically play like it was 1997 again.
Yeah, and I mean that was a great series. I thought the Knicks, only really Jalen Brunson was the most consistent performer for them. We had up and down performances by Julius Randle. Emmanuel Quickley was out for the majority of the series. RJ Barrett kind of stepped up there, but he has a terrible Game 7. It's just really consistency, and right now I think Boston. We talk about this with Jason and Jalen. I mean, that's a first-team All-NBA performer in Jason Tatum, which is already great to have on your team, a top-5 player. And then you have Jaylen Brown, who's an All-NBA second-team performer, right? So you have potentially 2 of the top 10, in theory, players in the NBA on one team playing in the most important position on your team, the wings. So again, I think it's going to be too much, too much firepower, too many weapons out of Boston. We didn't even get to guys like Derek White and Brogdon and those guys in Boston. So deeper, more talented. But I do like Miami potentially in this first half to kind of surprise Boston, right? Because this is going to be a completely different type of series as what they saw in Philly. Philly was super pick and roll heavy. Miami's going to be super ISO heavy with Jimmy and Bam. So I like Miami in that first game.
Albert, stick around. We have a Western Conference final to look at. Albert, let's go to the Western Conference finals in the NBA. Game 1, Tuesday night in the Mile High City. Nuggets are 5.5 in Game 1. Total's 222.5. Before we look at the series prices, what do you think in this Game 1 here?
Yeah, Game 1 is going to be a Denver blowout, in my opinion. I think Denver's going to come out. I know it's 5. It opened at 5. It's up to 5.5, maybe 6, depending on where you're looking at. But I think Denver's home court advantage, which has been the best home court advantage in the West all season long. I think this is a potential letdown spot for the Lakers, who are coming off a very nice emotional win at home against the Warriors there. That was a really big series. Everyone talked about LeBron and Steph Curry and that matchup there. So I think they're going to have a potential hangover. I know with LeBron there and Anthony Davis there, they're going to be able to turn around really quickly. But I think the younger guys like Austin Reeves, Vanderbilt, guys like that, this is their first real playoff run. I think they're really going to get hit in the mouth in Denver. Denver's been waiting for this matchup. They've been resting. They've been at home. They took care of, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. This is still a formidable top 2 in LeBron and AD, but they're young. They're a little older. They're a little slower. It's a different type of matchup for Denver. But I think the big adjustment or the big lack of adjustment that we're going to see is the Lakers. They're they're going to have to adjust a lot from a perimeter-oriented team in Golden State to a pick-and-roll heavy team in Jokic and Jamal Murray. So I like Denver minus 5.5, all the way up to 6.5. I think they get it done on Tuesday night. But for the series, we can get to that later.
Well, we'll get into that in a second. I do agree with you that we saw it, and we saw it in the Phoenix series as well. A few days off, the first game in elevation, a veteran team in the Lakers. Yes, they have some rest going into this game, but it's a hard place to play right out of the gate. I'm with you. Even though I don't like Denver in the series, I like them in game one, like you do, Albert, on Tuesday night. In the series, minus 150 on Denver, plus 130 on the Lakers. You know, Albert, after the Lakers won game one, I was in for Gil Alexander in a numbers game. I said the Lakers are going to win the whole thing. Obviously, you need LeBron, you need AD to hold up health-wise. They have so far this postseason. I think this is a pretty good price, all things considered, on the Lakers. But since you and I both like game one, I would like the Nuggets in game one, I should say. I'm going to wait. I'm going to go with, all right, Denver wins game one. I'm going to get a better price on the Lakers having to win 4 out of 6. And I think they're more than capable of doing so against this Denver team.
You read my mind. That's exactly how I'm reading it. I'm going to be pretty heavy on the Nuggets in game one, and I'm going to take that money and put it on the Lakers for the series in game two. If you're not as confident on the series, maybe look into the game spread. I think plus 1.5 would be good after they lose game one. But you're right. This is a matchup, a rematch of the bubble playoffs. A lot of people forgot Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic had a great bubble run there. They ran into the Lakers. And the difference in that series, and we've been watching it in this postseason run as well, is Anthony Davis really took to it Nikola Jokic. He was forcing Jokic, who's a phenomenal player, 2-time MVP in his own right, but he was forcing Jokic to defend, and I think that's the biggest difference. Jokic was able to take a few plays off against Ayton and the Suns. He was able, obviously, to take plays off in the first round against their 8 seed because Rudy Gobert is not really a threat on offense. So I think if Anthony Davis can make Jokic not only work, but potentially get into foul trouble, everybody talks about how many free throws the Lakers are shooting each of these series. There's a reason for that, right? They're initiating the contact. They're being aggressive. They're driving to the lane. I think if the Lakers can do that, they definitely have a shot. But I'll say this, the Denver Nuggets are much better than the Warriors. They're going to have to play better than they did against the Golden State Warriors, who, for all intents and purposes, were one of the worst away teams in the history of the league. And I know a lot of people have a lot of respect for Steph Curry and those boys, a lot of reputation. They're 4-time NBA champions, but I never really believed in this year's version of the Warriors. I believe in this year's version of the Nuggets. So with that said, the Lakers just have to really, really step up the game. LeBron can't have any of those, 8 for 25 type games. He needs to be really efficient, and he really needs to take it to the hole and shoot a lot of free throws in this series.
Albert, if we get a Lakers Celtics final, how would you handicap that? I would expect Boston would be probably about a minus 225, minus 230 favorite. I might be cheap on Boston as well. But again, I'm higher on the Lakers. But what type of shot would you give LA if they were to upset Denver and had Boston next?
That would be a really, really fun hypothetical, Jeff. These are two franchises with 17 NBA titles. So the next winner of it would be the the record holder in the NBA. It's going to be tough. It's the same issue that the Miami Heat's going to run into, right? 2 elite wings. Does LA have enough there? Can LeBron play for another 15 games of elite defense? Because that's what he's really been doing. I think his offense has taken a step back, Jeff, but his defense has really, really ratcheted up. Not only one-on-one defense, but help defense, getting blocks, getting defensive rebounds. If he can do that for 2 more series, I mean, I'm not going to say he's the greatest of all time, but I'm going to say he's the greatest of all time, right? So with that said, how would I cap that series? I think you're right. I think Boston would be between a minus 220 to minus 250 favorite in that. Boston will have the home court advantage. The thing with the NBA Finals is they got rid of the 2-3-2 format, so it'd be 2-2-1-1-1. So that kind of gives advantage back to the home court advantage team there, the Boston Celtics in that hypothetical. I would do what I'm doing in this series. I would probably wait until after game one, see how the game one goes, and if the Lakers go down 0-1, I think that would be a good time to really fire away. But in this series, as well as in that hypothetical series, it's really going to come down to Anthony Davis. He has to be maybe not the best player on the court because there's Jokic on the other side, but he can't be worse than the second best player on the court.
Albert, I want to ask you about a market that some people may not even realize is out there. The Western Conference Final MVP market. Okay, so Jokic is minus 130. LeBron is plus 260. AD is plus 360. Jamal Murray is 14-1. Now, it is hard to see a path for Denver to win the series and Jokic not to get the award. But Jamal Murray sitting out there at 14-1 just is kind of enticing to me, with knowing how we have seen playoff explosions from Murray in the past. And 14-1 just seems too high, especially with the team that is favored to win the series and their second best player.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective there. Because you're right, Nikola Jokic most likely is going to average like a triple-double in the series, just like he does in every series. But a lot of people forget this is the breakout series or breakout postseason run in the bubble that Jamal Murray had back in 2020. He faced the Lakers for 5 games. He had, I think, 3 or 4 games where he scored over 20 points against the Lakers, and that was prime LeBron and Anthony Davis on defense. So if Jamal Murray is that swing player, I think you're right. 14-1 is a great price. I don't know if I would be willing to put my neck on the line and say Jamal Murray is the spot there, because I think if the Nuggets advance, it's going to be solely based on Nikola Jokic. But I would say this: I think the swing player in this series is just going to be similar to the Wiggins swing player in the previous series. He got hurt, and I think the Lakers took full advantage. I think in this series, I think it's going to be Aaron Gordon. He needs to be able to play elite defense, but also get timely buckets like Andrew Wiggins did in the finals last season. So I like if you're looking for the most important player outside of the best player, look into Aaron Gordon prop.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.